Greetings, fellow Whovians, and welcome to Timey Wimey Review, and my review of the final instalment from the Black Guardian trilogy, the Fifth Doctor story, Enlightenment, originally broadcast on BBC One in March 1983. But first, this video is in tribute to two amazing actresses who sadly passed away within the past week. First being Sylvia Sims, who was in the Seventh Doctor story Ghostlight, and Annie Wershing, who, even though is not affiliated with Doctor Who, it's just so tragic when anyone passes away, let alone someone so young. And if you haven't seen Star Trek Picard before, I'm a big fan of that show. She was amazing as the Borg Queen. And again, it's just so tragic. Rest in peace, both of you. Just in case you don't know the plot, the White Guardian tries to warn the Doctor of impending danger. Before the Black Guardian intervened, the White Guardian managed to give the Doctor a set of coordinates. The TARDIS lands on a sailing ship, but this is no ordinary vessel. This is a sailing ship in space, as it is in a race with other vessels to reach the grand prize of Enlightenment. This four-part adventure is quite a fascinating story written by Barbara Clegg, who introduces an alien race known as the Eternals, who are a race of beings that basically can live forever, and also uses their powers to hypnotize other beings like humans, for example, kind of against their will, and also read their minds through telepathy. Very similar themes to Mordering Undead in the first story of the Black Guardian trilogy, and that running theme of kind of who wants to live forever, be careful what you wish for. But I feel like these aliens are just a bit more sort of creepier, definitely more tragic and dangerous and complex, especially with their own lack of morals and compassion with other human beings. They can basically go on and reform if they get killed, but obviously human beings and other aliens, that's it, end of the line. And yeah, there's just when an alien or a being does get killed, and they're like, well, they only have short lives anyway. It's not like it's not like they're us. And that must be, it's very similar to humans look at animals or insects. They're all all right, they might not be sentient as what we kind of understand, but all life, to, if anything, is precious. One of the Eternals, who I think was an absolute scene stealer in this story, was Keith Barron as Commander Stryker, who was in charge of that vessel. And yeah, he was just very straight-laced, just kept it very creepy and didn't have to go over the top. And yeah, I really enjoyed his performance in this story, particularly the scene where the ship is orbiting Venus, and to the point where they were on the brink of destruction. If they got the course wrong, and just the way he was shouting out orders, and just his, not a disregard for life, but really, quite happily put his life at risk to achieve the victory of winning this race. He really nailed how this character should be. It's interesting fact that originally Peter Sallis, who was famous for Wallace and Gromit and Last of the Summer Wine, he was originally going to be cast for this role, but unfortunately had to pull out because he had other commitments. And it would have been quite fascinating to see how he would have approached this character and how he would have performed this role. But nothing to take away from Keith Barron. Again, like I said, it was a scene stealer. Loved his performance. There were some really good household names in Enlightenment, and you can talk quite a lot about stunt casting, especially in the John Nathan Turner era. But I felt that the casting was pretty much spot on in this story. Starting off with Tony Caunter as the crew member Jackson. He's also been in Doctor Who previously in The Smugglers, I believe, and Connolly in Space. He's also most famous for being Roy Evans in EastEnders in the 90s and noughties. And again, really enjoyed his performance. like the character of Jackson. He was basically a human that was enslaved by the internals, but didn't quite get hypnotized as the rest of the crew member. He knew that something was amiss. And yeah, it was really good interactions with the cast members, especially with Turlo. We also have singer Lee John, who is the first mate and pirate Mansell. Now, he's not well known for his acting, and especially at that point, I think this is the only sort of acting that he's done. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But again, I thought he did a good job, you know, considering he's a singer, he's not really a trained actor. I thought he did a good job as Mansell. And also, we have the late Linda Barron, who was the pirate captain Rack. She was, yeah, just a slight over the top villainous villain. That's the only way I can describe her, just laughing her way through her victory. But it wasn't, when I say it's over the top, it wasn't like just, you know, out of touch or anything. I think it was a good sort of counterbalance to Keith Barron's persona of Commander Stryker. So it's interesting to see the two different captains both trying to reach the same goal. And speaking of the Black Guardian, loving Valentine Dahl's performance in throughout the whole trilogy. Again, like I said in my Mouldering Undead review, we got a lot more of him, especially if you compare that to the ending of The Key to Time. He was only in there for a couple of minutes, where here we got a few more scenes with him. We could have had a lot more, to be brutally honest. I love the scene where he's just tormenting Turlo, you know, just grabs him and sort of like, you know, you failed me, boy. You know, you were rubbish, basically. Why did I hire you to try and kill my mortal enemy? But yeah, and again, it could have gone way over the top, but personally, I just enjoyed it. Even just the cheesy mustache twirling laugh that he did, them. You know, I again just loved all of it. You know, it was just a spotlight stealer for me. Other people might just find it a bit too cheesy. I loved it. I think we could have had a lot more of the Black Guardian in this trilogy. Let's talk about our main stars, starting with the Fifth Doctor himself, Peter Davison. And personally, this is probably one of my favourite performances from Peter Davison. I think when you sort of throwing out you know, best doctors, and obviously you've got Tom Baker, David Tennant, Matt Smith, they're usually the ones that are up there, up the high up there. And you know, Peter Davison is definitely not one to really sort of miss out. You know, it is very different to compare it to Tom Baker and his persona, but here I just really do love his persona, and I don't know if this was intentional or not, but if you go back and watch the first episode of this story, I feel like he was subtly trying to impersonate, or at least just bring little past personas of the previous Doctor incarnations. I just felt that I saw it, you know, the Doctors 1 to 4 in little snippets in this first episode, but then just went into full-on Fifth Doctor mode throughout the rest of the episodes, throughout the rest of this story. And like I said, it's a very commanding performance from Peter Davison. Even though Tegan wasn't really the main focal point in this story, I did quite enjoy the subplot between Tegan and one of the Eternals, just obviously reading her mind and just having this, you know, fiery energy and this lust for life. And he's sort of like, I want a bit of that. And and Tegan sort of like going, are you in love with me? And him going, what is love? I just, yeah, I just found it quite endearing in this story. Again, it's not the main focal point. Probably, you know, you can argue that it was just something for Tegan to do, but at least it was there and she wasn't lost in the shuffle. If you compare that to other companions, or compare that to other Fifth Doctor stories, like Nyssa can sometimes be tucked away in the corner, or even Adric. And then we have Mark Strickson as Turlo, and yeah, it was sort of building up to this for as part of this trilogy, the torment of Turlo and the Black Guardian really tormenting him to the point where Turlo was going to commit suicide, and that was quite a shocking scene. You know, again, it was a strong cliffhanger for the end of part 2, I believe. part three, maybe? No, part two. Sure, it was part two. But yeah, it was a shocking scene nonetheless. And yeah, I thought out of the whole trilogy of introducing a new companion, at least it was something new, it was something refreshing. I thought Max Dixon did a really good job bringing Turlo to life because it wasn't an easy task, I don't think. And yeah, I thought this wrapped up this sort of story arc of introducing Turlo quite well, even though it kind of muddied the waters of kind of like he is an alien, but they don't really mention it that much, and I don't think they really bring that up until his final story, Planet of Fire. Again, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I don't really remember him being, they just kind of treat him as like a human being, but he's not. He is actually an alien. And like I said, I don't think they bring that up again until Planet of Fire. I have to say, the effects were really impressive for this story. I thought it was a very clever way of utilizing the whatever little budget Doctor Who has. Especially using models ships. It doesn't matter if they bought them from the model shop, because it looked really good. And yeah, I thought the space scenes looked quite impressive, especially when the crew and the characters go on deck. I thought that looked quite impressive. Turlo going overboard looked quite good. The only one that looked pretty dodgy was when they cast the life preserving ring. That was a bit that kind of looked a bit wrong. It was only like a split-second shot, but it did look like a piece of string and they tied a polo onto it. But apart from that, I thought, like I said, they utilized um, kind of all the strengths from the BBC, with the set designs between the Captain Striker's, Commander Striker's ship and Captain Rex's pirate ship, and also the costumes that was used. The BBC are very good at period drama costumes, so it's really good to see that mixture of a strong story with a mixture of good special effects and good costume and set designs. For this review, not only did I watch the 4-part original transmitted version, I also watched the special edition on this DVD, which had more enhanced effects and kind of a more edited one story adventure, one episode adventure. This was directed by Fiona Cummins, and it was pretty cool that they brought her back to reshuffle the edits into kind of more of her vision that she kind of wanted but couldn't quite do it because of the budgets and the constraints at the time in the 80s. But personally, I enjoyed the original transmitted version more. I thought the computer generated effects were impressive. They are starting to look tiny bit dated, only a tiny bit. But I don't think really out of all the enhanced effects from when they sort of restore some of the stories from Classic Who, I don't think Enlightenment really needed that as much as probably other stories from the Classic Who collection. I'm going to give Enlightenment a TARDIS rating of 7.5 out of 10. Like I said at the beginning of this review, I found it quite a fascinating story of the Eternals, and then just going on to this great space race and just bringing the Black Guardian trilogy to a close. The pros on this one is they really did utilize the effects to their fullest with the special effects, the set designs, and the period costumes. I thought the acting was spot on. I thought the casting was great. Some really good interactions from all the cast members on this one. I think the only thing that was a little bit of a tiny downfall is they didn't quite fully utilize the Black Guardian. It's nice to see Cyril Luckham back as the White Guardian. I also enjoyed the music by Malcolm Clark. I also sort of heard like snippets that he would go on to use in Resurrection of the Daleks in this story. Quite like that. It just brought me some like nostalgia memories of watching Resurrection of the Daleks, and obviously what I reviewed not so long ago, actually last year, at the end of last year. But as a Black Guardian trilogy as such, again, I think they could have utilized that more. And again, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Have we not had any audio adventures with the Black Guardian trilogy? Because that could have really fit in and just really sort of bring on the more, especially with Turlo as well, bring some more tension onto the scenes and really sort of enhanced this trilogy. So if you haven't done it before, please do some more with the Black Guardian trilogy. Yeah, with the Black Guardian. I would like to see a return of the Black Guardian actually, and the White Guardian in modern Doctor Who, as well as the Eternals. I think they're again a fascinating beings to have, and we're kind of promised another encounter with the Black Guardian, and we still haven't had it yet, 40 years on. If I had to pick an order of favourite to least favourite from the Black Guardian trilogy, I would definitely say that Mordrin Undead is at the top, followed by Enlightenment, and then Terminus. They're all fairly good stories. Terminus is probably the weakest out of the trilogy, but like I said, I really enjoyed Mordrin Undead. Thought Enlightenment was a lot of fun as well. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts to Enlightenment. Is this your favourite story out of the Black Guardian trilogy? And did you prefer the original transmitted version or the special edition version of this story? Next time on Timey Wimey Review will be my updated Doctor Who collections video, where you'll be getting a little bit more up close and personal of the newly recent acquired items from my ever-growing collection of Doctor Who memorabilia. Until then, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this review. Please like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the cloister bell for more notifications. Come say hello and follow me on Twitter at ReviewTimey, and I'm also on TikTok, so do check out that. And also do check out my other videos from the Timey Wimey Review YouTube channel. And as a good doctor once said, someone is willing to kill to win.